To understand Ho'oponopono, at least in my opinion, is that its philosophy is that there is nothing outside of you. It's all an illusion. There's a little bit of Buddhism in there and a little bit of Jungian psychology in there, because it's saying that everything else is a mirror. And so if there's anything on the outside that's bothering you, it's not really the outside. I know when the therapist, Dr. Hulen, and I did seminars together, one of his favorite questions would be, have you ever noticed that when you have a problem, you are there? You're participating in it. You're creating it. To use secret terms, you are attracting it. But you're not doing it consciously. It's not like you sat there and said, well, I'm going to create homelessness. I'm going to create this encounter with my neighbor or employee or a vendor. We didn't consciously do that. Subconsciously, it was there, and it got manifested into what you're perceiving to be reality. But if you go back into where it all started and you dilute it with Ho'oponopono, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, you then change what's actually causing the reflection. It's almost like your mind is an old movie projector, and it's just shooting out what you're observing, but you are not just observing it, you're in it. You're in the movie of your life, but it's being projected from inside of you. And if you want to change the movie of your life, one of the 9 different ways you can do it is Ho'oponopono. But it is all you, and that is the hardest thing for people to get, especially with Ho'oponopono, because it's so easy to point fingers. It is so easy to say, it's not me, it's COVID, it's the authorities, it's the president, it's the terrorists, it's climate, it's pick something. It's really easy to just throw responsibility to somewhere else. And that's part of the wake up. And maybe that's a reoccurring theme for our time together today. It's the wake up is that if you really want to create your reality, you want to manifest some of the things you've been longing for in your life, you've got to take your power back. You've got to bring it back into yourself, into your awareness, into your field of choice. When we sit there and go, well, my life would be great if it wasn't for my parents, or my life would be great if it wasn't for fill in the blank, just pick somebody. And now we've got somebody as our scapegoat. Now we can say it's all their fault, and we don't change. We don't do anything. But if we can bring it all inside of ourselves and go, okay, the way I was brought up, they did the best they could. Whatever's going on in the world doesn't necessarily have to affect me personally, and go inside and make choices from our ability to choose our own direction. Now we're empowered. But I would say that one of the big complaints people have about Ho'oponopono is they don't want to take responsibility. They don't want it to have it on their shoulders. I would notice what's going on in the world and what's going on in the person's life. Almost everybody has something they're wrestling with virtually all the time. Pick whatever's going on in your life. Notice that it's inside of you. Notice that your perceptions about it being a problem or not are not outside. Where you're experiencing it as a problem is not outside. You experience a problem inside yourself. It's the only place you can experience it as a problem. So as we come inside of ourselves and we realize, okay, this is what I'm experiencing it, pretend that you're talking to your version of God, the divine, Gaia. An atheist could say nature or the great cosmos or the energy field of all possibilities. As I said earlier, I just call it the great something. Joseph Campbell called it the great unknown, I think, or the great mystery. And so we have this conversation. We just say, I don't know where all these feelings are coming from. I don't know what created it, but thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. You can say it in any order. You never say it out loud. You never say it to another person. It's an internal experience, like a private prayer that you're saying. And since I seem to have the floor, let me explain this one more minute of how this works. When you say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, it's kind of shorthand for a longer process. You're basically saying, I'm sorry for whatever the belief is in me that I'm not aware of. Please forgive me for being unconscious to the operating system that's in my own mind. Thank you for resolving this, clearing this, erasing it, rewiring it, whatever it takes to return to peace and to remove the limiting program in the subconscious. And I love you for the process. I love you for my life. I love you for fill in the blank. You want to move into a state of love. So when you're saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, there's a little bit more going on. And I'll say one more thing. I've done this enough to know that a lot of people object to saying, I'm sorry, or please forgive me. It's like, I didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, that's not where we're coming from. We're saying, I'm sorry and please forgive me for being unaware, being unconscious. And I use the example that if you go to a crowded store and you bump into somebody, don't you naturally turn and say, I'm sorry, because you didn't see them there? It doesn't mean you need to be flogged. You didn't do any crime kind of deserving punishment experience. You just bumped into somebody. That's the level of consciousness when you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's like, I was unaware. I didn't know that this was going on in my brain. So I'm sorry it was there. Please forgive me for the programming that I was unconscious to receiving. Thank you for clearing it up. And I love you for the healing. That's kind of the longer process that's going on.
Beautiful. I love this technique. I'm going to give it a try tonight and this weekend and see what happens. And now it makes more sense to me that you're saying this quietly to yourself. And then I like how you expanded on it as well. And look, if you can't say I'm sorry or please forgive me, that should be a pretty obvious a flag that you got, that the ego is in the way here somewhere.
Thank you for saying that. I have often said that. If you can't say I'm sorry or please forgive me, then you better say I'm sorry or please forgive me.
Exactly.
Because your ego is blinding you to what's going on.